What's going on, y'all? Bud Elliott here of the Cover 3 podcast. That's my man, Andrew Ivins, all things recruiting and scouting for 24/7 Sports. Ivins, this is the Cover 3 Recruiting Hour, which is kind of growing in popularity, man. People are asking for it. They're excited. I told them we're moving it up a day this week due to some scheduling stuff, and they're pumped, man. How you been?
Doing good, bud. Yeah, I'm just going to do this every week until it happens. T-minus 3 weeks till signing day. What is that, like over 21 days? We are in crunch time. It's fun time, silly time, right? Once we get these coaching hires as well. But a lot of movement here over the past, few days with commits flipping, visits taking place. Certainly no better place to be than right here, I think, as we try to, paint a wide brush when it comes to the national perspective.
100%. So we don't always deep dive teams, but like one team that is squarely in the playoff hunt, a team that's won a whole bunch of games in a row, including at 1.4 against ranked teams. That's Kanell DeBoer's Alabama Crimson Tide, and they are really killing it recruiting and starting to pick up a lot of steam. They beat LSU 20-9 in what was probably a little more uncomfortable than they wanted. They still covered the spread. Like LSU still has real athletes. They had a good plan for them. Like I think Bama is a team that has struggled a lot in blitz pickup this year, and LSU probably saw that and exploited that. But still, LSU couldn't score any points. So that's a bit of an issue if you're going to win in Tuscaloosa. But we're here to talk recruiting. Let's talk a little bit about who they had in the recruiting section and what kind of class they're building here as they look to close strong in 2026.
Yeah, Bud. I mean, I'm sure you had eyes on the game Saturday night. How to find an alternate because of the YouTube TV situation. But I was watching the broadcast, and at one of the commercial breaks, it was after a touchdown, they panned to this section. And I think a lot of people didn't know who was in that section, but I'm like, oh, that's a 5-star prospect. That's a 5-star prospect. That's a 5-star prospect. It was a who's who on Saturday night in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And that's not surprising. I mean, Alabama always does it big. And Bud, we're getting close to updating our class of 2026 rankings. And one of my big takeaways, like one of my storylines, is I love Alabama's recruiting class. It's number 3 right now in the rankings. Can they get to number 1? We'll see, right? A lot of moving factors there. But to me, the big question about Kanell DeBoer was, okay, can he recruit? Can he match what Nick Saban did? And I look at this recruiting class, and I see future NFL guys up and down the list. I mean, start at the top, Xavier Griffin. I think he's the next Jihad Campbell. Jordan Edmonds, big corner out of the state of Georgia. Kind of reminds me of Will Johnson. Jira Edwards. Malachi Starks is the player comp for him. Zion Gibson, one of my favorite corners in the class. So as we've got into the senior tape with this group of individuals, I think Alabama's getting better in 3 weeks. And the scary part, I think, for the rest of the SEC in all of college football is this 2027 recruiting class. It has a chance to be even better than what the Crimson Tide are doing here in 2026. On Saturday night, you had DJ Jacobs, the number 1 overall player in the class of 2027. He was in the stands. They also had Elijah Haven, 5-star quarterback, number 2 player nationally there. Brett Greenberg from Bama 247. He actually put it in a crystal ball pick for the Crimson Tide to land Elijah Haven. They already have a quarterback committed in the 2027 class, and they got 2 committed in the 2026 class. So Alabama, they aren't looking for arms in the transfer portal. They are all in on high school recruiting when it comes to that signal caller position. But man, Alabama has it dialed right now, I think, from a talent evaluation, talent ID, and then getting these guys on campus. I mean, my big thing, Bud, like, if you asked me this 6 months ago, hey, what is the future outlook for the Crimson Tide? And I thought there was reason to be concerned that the Built by Bama slogan might fade away as we get further and further from Nick Saban's tenure. But I look up now, and it seems like kids are still buying into, all right, I go to Alabama and I can make the NFL.
I was 100%. And like they're not going to be as good as those Bama teams were, because the sport is not as good overall. Like, it's more entertaining than it's ever been. We've had a lot more close games, but the talent is more spread out. So it's like they're not going to be, on like a power rating standpoint, a 32 again. I don't think that's coming back unless we have like real structural changes to the sport. But man, I look at this class. I've seen Griffin in person a couple times. Ooh, who was the guy? Wears glasses. He played for A&M and then Denver for a long time. Edge rusher.
Von Miller?
Yes, excuse me. I think there's a little Von Miller there, man. Like the twitch and the bend combo. Like some guys shoot out and then they can't bend it, right? And some guys don't have quite the twitch and they do bend. He's kind of got both, and he's got a nice motor too. I know he's not the biggest guy, but like it's hard for me to imagine him not being an early impact guy for them. Just with like people are going to struggle to handle that speed and that bend, man. Like, that's nice.
Well, Buddy, I mean, he's a guy that can play on ball or off ball. And if you go back to Jahad Campbell's recruitment, we kind of listed him as an edge. He ended up playing more linebacker at Alabama. Then we fast forward to the NFL draft process, and Daniel Jeremiah saying the same thing, like, hey, I kind of like Jahad Campbell more on the edge. I think that same conversation is going to carry over to Xavier Griffin, who, hands down, like at 24/7 Sports, he is one of our favorite prospects. We've been super convicted on him from the jump. You mentioned the Von Miller comp. He reminds me of like a deer that jumps in front of the car, right? Like he just burst on there and he makes the play in the backfield. The other thing I just want to circle back on, this quarterback situation, right? Go back to 2018 when Alabama had 3 Heisman Trophy finalists in the room with Tua, Jalen Hurts, and Mac Jones. I'm not saying, Alabama's going to repeat that at some point here in the near future. But Bud, man, the quarterback room is as stocked as any program in the country. Obviously, you have Ty Simpson there right now, probably off to the NFL. What do you have behind him? Keelan Russell, 5-star quarterback from last cycle, the National Gatorade Player of the Year. I talked about in the 2026 class, they got 2 arms committed. Taden Kawa, more of a developmental guy, but he's 6'5", 235 pounds from Utah. And then Jet Tamala, out of Nebraska, Gatorade, the Player of the Year last year. They're Max Preps Player of the Year. This kid is completing 73% of his passes as a senior. He's got 47 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. Iowa State, Matt Campbell were in early on Jet Tamala. Kalen DeBoer, they pry him away. And then let's go to 2027. I said it. They got Trent Seaborn, a kid in state that's already won some state titles there in the Yellowhammer State. And then this Elijah Haven one, Bud. Me and you saw him at the Future 50 back in June. You get around Elijah Haven. He is a supersized signal caller, all of 6'5", all of 215 pounds. He can beat you with his arm. He can beat you with his legs. He can dunk on the hardwood. And I think what really stands out about Haven, the way he is wired, right? And I thought Florida was in a really, really good spot with Elijah Haven. Obviously, Billy Napier's gone. And I think that's opened the door for the Crimson Tide here to lock him up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just very composed. When you talk to him, and this is not a guarantee he's going to be good, right? Like we know, QB recruiting is it's not a coin flip. It's more like a weighted coin flip. If you have talent, guess what? It's actually more likely you're going to be good than not. I know some people on Twitter and social media are like, oh, QB recruiting is a total toss up. It's not. It's not an exact science, but man, you're talking like an adult when you talk to that guy, despite the fact he's got another year left of high school. Like that, that's a really impressive kid. Credit to you for being on him as early as you were there in the rankings process. And like we were sitting out there at Future 50, I'm like, I kind of like him better than the other guys out here who are rated ahead of him. But again, it's so early in the process still,
But Elijah Haven, I mean, I mentioned I thought Florida was in a good position. I mean, this kid goes to school on the other side of town in Baton Rouge from LSU, right? And, everyone's kind of taken a swipe at him. He's visited a ton of different programs. I think he's going to be a longer burn, right? He is not a complete product. The player comp for me was Jacoby Brissett. I think some people see that and they're like, oh, Jacoby Brissett. Well, it's like Jacoby Brissett's still starting games in the NFL. Jacoby Brissett was also a talented basketball player that could have played both sports in college. And I got to add here on the quarterback, outlook for the Crimson Tide. And I'm not trying to disappoint everyone out there, but if you want to spin it to 2028, right? Those are the sophomores. Hey, Ty Simpson's brother, Graham Simpson, is having a heck of a sophomore year after being the Max Preps National Player of the Year as a freshman. So there's one program that has this quarterback thing figured out on paper, right? Now these guys got to live up to the ranking. It's Alabama.
How dare you compare a player to a guy who has played 10 years in the NFL, right? When did Jacoby Brissett finish up? Because he was on those Muschamp teams.
Like 2012,
right?
Around there.
Yeah, I mean, because Charlie Weiss recruited him, and it was him and Driscoll. And as Knowles, we always kind of joked maybe Charlie Weiss recruiting because he thinks his name is Brisket, not Brissett, right? But Like the guy ended up being really, really freaking good.
Well,
was that Dwyer he was from?
Yeah, Dwyer
Okay,
in West
yeah.
Palm Beach. Yeah, I mean, Bud, like the quarterback comps are so difficult because I don't think a fan base is going to be happy unless it's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes. I think we could put Drake May there. So like, guys, we can't recycle the same five. And guess what? Not all of them are going to be those individuals. So I think if someone that's probably started over 30 games in the NFL, that's a good comp. That one in the SEC, that certainly works.
1,000,000%. All right, let's stay here on the quarterback thing. We have a big one coming up, a big announcement coming up pretty soon, and that's Jayden Wade, number one player in the class of 2028. He's going to announce on Sunday finalists: Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Washington, Michigan. Just a couple heavy hitters there, man. That's that does not suck as far as an offer list. I'm a little bit less concerned about where he's going to go. Obviously, we're going to watch his commitment and see where he goes. What do we like about the player? What makes Jayden Wade like the ability to be the number one overall player so far in 28?
Yeah, and I know this again, it's like so early for a lot of listeners, and you're talking about these sophomores. I mean, Jayden Wade is the real deal. And you talk with different colleges that got him on campus to throw, they are all in on Jayden Wade. And Bud, when we ranked him number one in the 2028 cycle, it was one of those ones where it was like, cross your fingers and let's hope this thing pans out, because Jayden Wade had started one game at IMG Academy. He had spent last year backing up Ty Hawkins, who signed with SMU. Well, guess what? Jayden Wade, he comes out in his sophomore campaign and he goes 9-0, right? And he looks great doing it. 20 touchdowns to just 2 INTs, almost 400 yards rushing, a couple more scores on the ground. But I saw him at IMG's Pro Day and I'm like, this is the one, right? Everyone wants to kind of know who's next. And when you see them throw on air in these type of settings, it's easy to get really excited. And I left IMG Academy. I drove back home across the state, and I went through all the quarterbacks. I'm like, I think this is the guy. The staff at IMG, they've compared him to CJ Stroud. Now, I think that is certainly, it's a lofty comp, but similar size. CJ Stroud was more of a late bloomer. Whereas Jayden Wade's a kid that is kind of the protege, right? Was identified very early by the IMG staff. He was their guy, spent his 8th grade year there on the depth chart. But I think he's a modern quarterback that can do the RPO game. He's dangerous as a runner, multiple 40, 50-yard runs this season at IMG Academy. He's obviously playing behind, a college-ready offensive line, but I thought his ability to make some high-level throws this season, deep balls, anticipatory shots to the sideline. IMG has a ton of talent, but they got a lot of small wide receivers, so he's not getting bailed out a ton. And I thought the off-platform stuff really, really stood out. The thing with Jayden Wade, which is really interesting, and talking with some college contacts, talking with Tom Loy, national recruiting insider for 24/7 Sports. A lot of people think he could reclassify.
I was going to ask, yeah.
He's in the 28 cycle. He could bump up into 2027. And this time next year, he's getting ready to sign with the school of his choice. And, I asked Jayden about it back in August at IMG's Media Day. Great conversation with him. The first thing I brought up is, hey, everyone loves you, but you have no on-field resume. And he's like, yeah, I know, but I'm going to prove it this season. Well, he did. The second thing is, when I brought up the reclassification, I said, is this a possibility? And at the time, he kind of relayed that him and his camp felt like it made the most sense to get a ton of reps at the high school level. Now, that could certainly change, right? Obviously, we're in the name, image, and likeness era. There's got the compensation, but it seems like they have the right idea. It seems like they understand that getting and seeing a live pass rush, yields better success on Saturdays and then potentially on Sundays. So one to track. And, I think whoever he picks on Saturday or Sunday, it's going to kind of reset the 2027 quarterback market, because there is the chance that he will reclassify. I mean, he'll be a starter for 2 years at IMG Academy, same program that produced J.J. McCarthy.
So got to ask here, if he reclasses, him or Elijah?
Ooh, that's a fun one.
It's not on the rundown. I got Ivins on the spot here.
Yeah, I think it's neck and neck, right? I think there's some more exit velocity with Jayden Wade, kind of like how Elijah Havens wired a little bit better kind of between the ears. But, I think Jayden Wade would certainly be in that QB1 conversation for the 2027 cycle. And, Bud, I think I study this reclassification stuff more than anyone else in the industry. And it's been fun to, as we get more of a sample size, kind of see how these guys progress over their career. Cutter Bole at Kentucky, he took down DJ Lagway on Saturday night. He was a reclass first year there in Lexington against Louisville. It wasn't good, but he has certainly come along. Julian Lewis, we saw him over the weekend make his first start for Colorado. So, as we get more data points on this reclassification thing, it's certainly allowing us to, I think, kind of sort it out a little bit more. But, if Jayden Wade can get to close to 24 starts in high school, I think he would at least clear the threshold when it comes to that experience at the prep level.
I'm also curious. We need to add another layer to this study, not to workshop on air. I would factor in age. Some of these guys are they were holdbacks for whatever reason. Sometimes academic, sometimes it's, other issues. If you're reclassing up and you're an old 18 entering college, I think that's different than if you're if you're a true high school junior, right? Like a guy who's turning 18, maybe Christmas of your senior year, or maybe even March or something like that. That extra year of, development, bone structure, hormones, growth, everything. Guys are still growing 18, 19 a lot of times. That. I wonder if we layer that in. Julian Lewis was older, right? He jumped back up.
So I've done a lot of research on this topic. Talked with guys in the NHL, birthdays in the NHL.
The Gladwell book. Is it Blink or Outliers?
This was a conversation with people in scouting and presidents.
I'll shoot it to you.
I do believe there's a book on that. The birthday thing's interesting right now because we also had the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these states shut down. I don't think you can really fault parents for maybe wanting to send their kid back for another year after online schooling. So that has kind of something I'm monitoring that situation. The other thing, Bud, and I'm paraphrasing this stat, but it came from Brian Stumpf at the Elite 11 finals, and I think it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. According to him, and I might not have this perfectly worded, but over the past 10 years, there hasn't been a quarterback drafted that turned 19 before their senior year of high school, which is something to keep an eye on. Because if you usually do hold back a year, you could be 19 before the start of that senior season. Now you can turn 19 during that fall, but during the summer or the spring, that seems to be a no-no.
That's interesting. I know in Fort always the one we used to track was the we had it with Calvin Ridley and Kelvin Benjamin. So in Florida for the
19.9. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So if you're 19 years and 9 months old, you can no longer play high school football. I think it's a little bit different for basketball. The spring sports might be a little bit older, but yeah, man. So fascinating to see, where Jayden goes. One more quarterback talk here before we get to a little maybe portal news and other stuff. Iowa has a quarterback committed who we actually like, because the last one they had, we got a lot of gruff for saying this kid should play receiver.
Reeser.
Yeah, I'm okay, he's a quarterback, but also I'd like to see him return kicks.
Over the weekend, obviously Iowa on the spotlight, the mothership. Some big recruiting news for them. They landed Trayden Bessinger, quarterback out of the state of Utah. Bud, he was committed to Boise State. Man, the Broncos have lost 2 quarterbacks to Power 5 programs this year. Bryson Beaver also flipped to Oregon. Now they lose Trayden Bessinger, who, Bud, having as good of a senior season, or I should say had as good of a senior season as anyone in America, threw for over 4,000 yards, led his team to the quarterfinals in Utah's 6A playoffs. but he's tracking to be the second highest ranked quarterback signee of all time for the Hawkeyes. Could finish as the highest one, at least in the 24/7 sports era. He is 6'4". He can rip it. Easy velocity, easy torque from the upper half. He's mobile, got a basketball background, can move around a little bit. Kind of reminds me of Carson Strong. Remember the Nevada quarterback? Really good deep ball with him. Here's the thing, Bud. I think he can play in like an up-tempo attack, and I think he can also play in a balanced attack. And what I really like about Traydon Bessinger, he's got over 1,000 career pass attempts at the prep level, over 10,000 passing yards at the prep level. So you think about Iowa and their quarterback situation moving forward. I don't know if Bessinger is going to be in the mix maybe year one, but theoretically, I mean, this kid has seen a lot, right? And that should potentially have him in the conversation to play sooner rather than later. So I think if you're Iowa, hey, you got a guy that can rip it around the yard. What does that look like moving forward? I don't know, but this is a quarterback to get excited about.
So, I mean, now it's proof of concept that Iowa is like actually trying to run an offense, which is helpful. The next step, stay with me here, receivers. I think we should add some more high-level receivers into the mix. But like, I know it's a guy you've been high on for quite a while. Man, that's a tough look for Boise. Shoot, like two nice evals who later flip, to bigger time schools there. All right, let's hit a quick break as my IFB falls out. And on the flip side, we will talk a little transfer portal and recruiting. Hey, welcome back here to the Cover 3 podcast, Recruiting Hour. That's Andrew Ivins. I'm Bud Elliott, and we're going to talk a little maybe quarterback transfer portal. We're going to say potential targets. These guys are certainly not in the portal. I think their schools may or may not want to or be able to hold on to them. Obviously, last week we talked about CJ Bailey at NC State. Obviously, NC State very much wants to hold on to him, and their fans let us know. But certainly we think he's a rising star for sure. I don't know if you know this on Saturday, but Lane Kiffin retweeted the post that noted that DJ Lagway had been benched for the Gators. Again, I just don't – I do know why he didn't shut it down, but he never looked like healthy and comfortable to me this season. And last year, those games against LSU and Ole Miss were like some of the most impressive games any quarterback had in the course of the season. So lack of an offseason with healthy receivers as well. Like I kind of thought he should just shut down and come back healthy. He had the year to play with, but he ended up playing and gutting it out. And they ended up benching him. He did not play well, for sure. Also, Florida's defense was doing a lot of you seen the TSA meme where the guy just like barely passed the dude down and lets him pass. Florida was not, they didn't really want to be there, at least defensive, I don't think, in that ball game. They put in Tramell Jones, who didn't do much. What do you think on Lagway? Like, does it matter who gets hired as head coach there? Do you what do you think you need to change the scenery to get out of this thing?
Bud, my question for you, I mean, we're both located in Florida. Is the Florida fan base going to give DJ Lagway a chance? I think that was his 5th career multi-interception game. And you can no longer point the finger at Billy Napier. So where my mind went on Saturday night is, does DJ Lagway just need a reset? And I think if you're Florida and whoever comes in, we've seen the peaks of DJ Lagway, the reasons why he was ranked as a 5-star prospect. At the same time, I mean, he is still very much a work in progress. I think defenses have figured him out. I go back to the Miami game. I think he was pressing too much. I don't really know what happened against Kentucky, right? I mean, it did not look good. And Bud, I said my mind goes, does he need a reset? Where could DJ Lagway end up? He's a kid from Texas, right? So we know the
TCU?
Longhorns. We know the Longhorns have Arch. A&M is going to welcome back Marcel Reed, who is going to be off a college football playoff run. His dad played at Baylor. I mean, Baylor makes sense to some degree, but I look at some of these schools where there's job openings and the quarterback situation's up in the air. That would be like LSU. That would be like Auburn. Does he make sense at one of those? Or does he go the Dante Moore path if he does want to leave Gainesville and goes and sits, right? Remember when Dante Moore left UCLA, he told Oregon staff, hey, I want to come learn. I want to come study. I need a break. Sits behind Dylan Gabriel. And we all saw what he was able to do, with that throw on Saturday against Iowa to set up the game-winning field goal. So Dante Moore, has had a heck of a season. I don't know what makes sense for DJ Lagway, but I think something's got to change. And you're right. I think a lot of it's going to hinge on who's hired. But at the same time, Lincoln Riley was very involved in that recruitment. Do you go sit at USC and battle it out with Husan Longstreet post Jada Maeva? I mean, if I'm a USC, I'd be certainly open to that idea. But something's got to change.
100%. I going through the list of teams that might need a quarterback next year. Just staying in the SEC, LSU, Auburn, who's good? Missouri, or do they trust Zollers that much? I mean, he was like unplayably bad this weekend, unfortunately.
I mean, come on, we all knew that.
Arkansas,
yeah. I mean, Taylon Green, point to him as an example.
Right, exactly. I mean, new offense coming in, obviously, but unless they hire Petrino. Georgia, no. South Carolina, no. And I wouldn't go to South Carolina with the offensive line situation, especially if Sellers comes back. TCU loses Josh Hoover. Like, how much do they really like the backup? I probably wouldn't risk going to Oklahoma State just given the magnitude of the rebuild. Running through, but a guy of that talent, I love the idea of sitting and developing. But also, like, the upside he has, somebody's going to pay him to bet on the upside, right?
Yeah, well, and then I kind of put him in this box. You start going through the scenarios, Bud, and it's like, is he going to be ready to step in and take the team to the college football playoff? Or is he more of like the building block for the rebuild, knowing, hey, 2 years out? And you try to find that landing spot. It's fascinating. And at the end of the day, I mean, he could absolutely, stay at Florida. We're not saying he's leaving Florida. I want to know how the next few weeks go. If the pressure just mounts on DJ Lagway and he does need a clean slate.
There's a team down in South Florida that's going to need a quarterback. There's a lot of potential options there. All right, another guy here, Julian Lewis, who finally got a chance to do like the full-on starter thing. I know West Virginia's defense is not great. I get it, but like kind of a very rough start to that game and then came on pretty strong. If Deion doesn't have like one of the all-time masterclasses of game mismanagement, and I mean, like, I tweeted, and I was trying to do this in a sense to protect myself legally. I was like, I don't think Deion Sanders is shaving points, but if he was trying to, this is exactly how I'd want him to do it. I mean, they could have won that game. Like, Lewis was playing pretty well. He was dealing, and I mean, I don't know like how much of a step up in competition he can handle, but also it's not like Colorado is like super buttoned up right now. Maybe some more structure around him might help.
Yeah. What is going on at Colorado? I mean, they're 3-7. They have the number 79th ranked recruiting class. And I know a lot of Colorado people out there, a lot of prime backers will point out this is where they always are in the rankings. And then they have some fireworks and some excitement around signing day, and then they're going to go into the transfer portal. Well, everyone's kind of mining the transfer portal now, and it's 3 weeks till signing day. I don't see a ton of visitors showing up, so I just have questions about the roster construction, Bud. I mean, again, I've been kind of saying this for like over a year. It doesn't seem like this is sustainable what they're trying to build here. So, Julian Lewis, does he explore his options? Julian Lewis is a guy that had no shortage of suitors. And, I thought he had some really impressive throws against West Virginia. For a kid that was sacked 7 times.
Jordan Seaton didn't play. Like, they had some real important guys missing.
Yeah. So, another one, I mean, I think he's a point guard back there, right? Like, he is not the biggest guy, but he gets the ball out fast, accurate to the first and second levels. He is a reclassification, but he's a kid that was doing it since he was a 9th grader in Georgia's highest classification. So, Colorado to me, Bud, we used to always, it was like Colorado, and that is all faded, I think, for, a variety of different reasons. Travis
Yeah.
Hunter's off in the NFL. But if you want to open up the hood, what is going on here in terms of the recruiting?
Yeah, he kind of built a team, not a program. Which very familiar to me and Tallahassee, right? So, it makes you wonder. He's saying all the right things. I read the Colorado message boards, obviously, and I know our Colorado 24/7 sports message board is real active, and so people think they might have a new assistant staff there next year potentially. Although I thought the DC last year did a great job. I mean, he kept them in so many games, especially when Shador was getting dinged up. It doesn't feel like that's a long-term situation there for Dion as things are currently going. And I guess we'll have to see if, the situation is going to be there for Julian. There's some teams they're going to have some money to spend that are going to need a QB for sure next year. I would think some teams in the Big Ten, no doubt that what's happened in Michigan State. If they keep Jonathan Smith, they're going to probably have to go pretty heavy portal, assuming Childs goes elsewhere, right? And they've already kind of benched him a little bit, so.
But I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat here.
Yeah.
Julian Lewis was heavily considering Indiana last season. Mendoza off to the league, except it's the Mendoza brothers. His younger brother is there as well. So I think we're just talking this thing out loud. I mean, Colorado has lost two of their best commits, or one of them so far. Gavin Mueller, the tight end, taking a ton of visits. North Carolina's getting involved there. Miami's getting involved there. Emmanuel Ruffin, he decommits. And I don't know. I don't know if there is a Jordan Seaton in this recruiting class. I don't know if there's a Cormani McLean in this recruiting class. I don't know if there's a Julian Lewis. I don't know if there's a Dylan Edwards. Where are those difference makers that Prime has had up his sleeve in the past?
I agree with you. All right. One more here as we think about potential transfer portal options. Drew Mestamaker at North Texas, who actually never started a game in high school. The first game he started was the bowl game last year. I remember talking to Cole Kublik about that, who was calling the game. He's like, yeah, man, they love this kid. Okay, cool. And North Texas is probably the third favorite in the G5 to make the college football playoff, which is kind of wild, right? USF 1, JMU 2, and if not USF from the American, North Texas, due to the schedule, is in kind of prime position, even though, USF really dog walked them there in Denton. This guy's good. And he's not just ball placement. He's got some actual tools to him. I know that's a league that doesn't play a whole lot of defense. I know they have a lot of nice pieces around him. The back's really good too, and the offense is very creative, and Eric Morris is very likely up for a job. A lot of people are floating the idea of those two as a package deal wherever they go. I'm this guy might be better than where Eric Morris ends up. He might be a little more in demand than Eric Morris. Unless Eric Morris gets Arkansas, and then I'm sure Arkansas might be all in on that.
Whose profile is kind of similar to is Fernando Mendoza, who was not talked about it in the past on the Cover 3 Recruiting Hour, was not this prolific high school quarterback, completed 3 passes in a game against Madonna Prep as a senior. Bud, who's the only other quarterback I could think about that started college games and ended up, making the NFL that didn't start in high school was Kyle Trask. Is there anyone else that comes to mind for you?
There's a corollary here, but it's different. And it's Matt Castle, who never started games ever at USC and still made the league and actually started games in the league. I think, right? But I assume he started, if you end up at USC, you're very likely having started games in high school. I mean, this is a long time ago, but he's born in 82. So he definitely started games in high school. He was a top 100 guy. He just sat behind, would that have been Leinart and Mark Sanchez? Back
when there was no portal, Bud.
Correct. This guy would not have been around in the portal era. Somebody would have, he would have found a way to rip his practice film, up front from USC. And then he ended up starting several games in the NFL. But dude, he started 81 games in the NFL, which after never starting a game at USC, which is pretty wild,
Well, hey, if the quarterback and the coach are a package deal, got to toss in the running back, Caleb Hawkins.
He's good.
Freshman. Yeah. Gabe Brooks on our scouting team, just love this guy coming out. And Gabe Brooks is a UNT grad. And I think he was too nervous to try to push for that 4-star status. I mean, he finished as a high 3 for us. I think he was one of top 40 running back. He's been awesome.
I mean, 100%. Like it's going to be there's so many more guys out there too. We'll continue to discuss it as we get the portal is not for another 6 weeks here, but no, longer than that, actually 9 weeks. There's going to be a lot of quarterback movement for sure. Cause like different coaching staffs are going to want different types of players around there. There's guys at these existing schools. You're like, yeah, that's the incumbent. And the guy gets in there. He's like, that's not the guy I want. Right.
Yeah,
you let him know.
It's musical chairs. That's what it's going to be. I mean,
100%. Like, is Kyron Drones a senior? Got to be, right? He's 22 years old.
I would think so.
Yeah. Okay. So like he wouldn't count, but I'm just trying to think like some of these schools, like Daniels at Auburn, right? That's probably not the guy. Probably, I'm not saying definitely, that the new coach at Auburn's going to want. But he actually put up pretty good numbers against Vandy. Granted, a lot of that was just Cam Coleman winning jump balls. What looked like finally the Cam Coleman we saw just kill the Under Armour practice and nobody could guard him at all, right? But like that could be one to move. Is Van Buren a guy at LSU who the new coach is going to want? If not, like he's played some okay ball in the SEC. Like he'll go start somewhere if it's not at LSU. There's plenty of guys like that, man. I'm really interested to see.
Does Mateer have another year at Oklahoma?
He does.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he should use it, but some people think he goes pro. I just think like another year of processing and learning would really kind of help him. I mean, there's so many guys out there who, like, does Pabula have another year, or was that his last year?
I would think he's got it. Yeah, I don't know. Can he medical? No, right?
Can't. That was an October injury, so almost certainly not. Unless you get the 5 for 5. But like, it's going to be ruled on in December, or potentially ruled on in December. It looks like.
But I mean, here's another one. Like Penn State, right? Like we ranked him high. I think you've seen the flashes, but is whoever's taken over, is Grunk the guy? I
mean, system's going to matter a whole lot. Like it's talent, and it's also fit and preference and familiarity. Like if you're a new coach coming in, you may go get a guy fits what you want to run, even if he's not great, just so you don't bomb out in year one. Like having a terrible year one can definitely impact your recruiting going forward. It impacts your whole tenure there. Got to get off on the right foot in many cases, especially with the pressure that what Cignetti's doing in Indiana is putting on everybody else here. All right, let's shelve the rest of the quarterback recruiting talk there. I want to get into a little beef, man. This was kind of fun. Not a lot of people were watching this game. I had Syracuse plus 29.5, so I was very interested in this game. Actually, it was just kind of a hold your nose and bet it type situation in Miami. So Fran Brown and Mario, like, pretty going at it. And that was 38-10 Cuse. Mario tries to punch one in super late and does. Syracuse comes back down the field, gets the cover, which I thought was the right side there. But they're like going at it. And we think this probably has a little genesis in recruiting.
Yeah, but the ESPN cameras picked this up. I mean, you could find it on social media. These guys between a timeout, I think, are have crept towards the numbers and are screaming at each other. I've never seen anything really like it, and I did some investigating because I want to know what sparked this. Initially, where your mind goes to is last year's result, right? When Syracuse beat Miami, kept them out of the playoff. And talking with some of the guys at Inside the U, these two do not get along. And I think a lot of it stems from recruiting, right? So we got like throwback negative recruiting going on. And Syracuse, ever since Fran Brown has taken over, has been very involved in the Sunshine State, specifically in the South Florida Tri-County area, and even more zeroed into Miami-Dade, right? They have 5-star wide receiver Calvin Russell committed. Calvin Russell's mom played basketball at Miami. She's in the Hall of Fame there. According to Gabby Arrudia at Inside the U, Calvin Russell was at the game on Saturday. He had one of those house divided T-shirts between Syracuse and Miami. I don't know if it was a jersey. I still haven't seen the photo. So he had one of those going on. I get a feeling that there's a lot of negative stuff being said between the two parties. And I'm sure it's easy to imagine what Fran Brown is telling recruits about Mario Cristobal. And I'm sure it's easy to imagine what Mario Cristobal is telling recruits about Fran Brown and Syracuse right now. So certainly something to keep an eye on, just because like it's playing out with this 5-star recruit. Syracuse also flipped a DB from Florida State, Tadarius Hughes, who is Calvin Russell's high school teammate. Remember, Miami Northwestern is where Teddy Bridgewater was the head coach up until a few months ago, and now he's back in the NFL. Just some type of rivalry. And Bud, like, I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, did Fran Brown and Mario work together somewhere previously? No, this is just like all playing out over the past, 6 months.
They also, like, they're no stranger to each other on the recruiting trail. Because remember, like, before Fran was surprisingly landing some of these kids at Cuse, he was one of Georgia's ace recruiters as well. Like, yeah. And they would certainly recruit South Florida, pretty hard at UGA. So, I think they're no strangers. This is. I like this little deep dive on this beef. This is fun. It's something we got to keep watching.
I mean, everyone just is like, recruiting's gotten to the point where, hey, my school doesn't get the kid. It's, they paid more and this and that. Like, again, there is still like some relationship building.
Yes.
There's still negative recruiting. Like, I love to see it. Like,
we both know it. Like, if your school has to be the highest bidder on every kid, that is a wildly inefficient process. Like, we both talk to recruiting guys. You're like, God, I hate my head coach. Like he allows his assistants to be like, just say, hey, just go buy the kid. Right. I'm like, that's not how it works. If you can get a kid to take an 80% offer of what the other school's offering, because he actually likes you, because you actually like built a relationship and you showed a progressive plan of how the kid fits what you do and how you can do things for him, you can get a discount on kids. Like and I think Mario does a good job on that. Like, Miami's clearly the highest bidder quite often, but not always, right? Like, they do build real relationships with guys, and Fran's obviously a great relationship builder as well. So, two guys who do care an awful lot about recruiting. It sucks the quarterback went down for Cuse, because like they did have that nice win at Clemson. They were, I'm gonna say fraudulent. They were probably a little over their skis as far as record versus power rating, but like they were clearly not going to fall off a cliff. With the quarterback they brought in, and he goes down for the year, and they had to play Ricky Collins and a host of other guys. It just hasn't really the passing off is just kind of not there this year, but something that we'll continue to monitor for sure as it comes down the stretch. I want to see this shirt, by the way, because like I think the first person I ever saw do this. Do you remember AJ Hawk?
That's what I was going to say. That's who I thought. I was like,
yeah.
That's who started it, right?
You're like just old enough to be able to remember this kind of stuff. It's good, yeah. So AJ Hawk, for the listeners at home, Fiesta Bowl, I think it was Ohio State, Notre Dame. Hawk was a backer for Ohio State, but his sister was dating Brady Quinn, right? Who was currently, who is obviously Notre Dame starting quarterback. Brady Quinn's sister, not AJ Hawk's sister. Mikey, correct us in the chat. Excuse me. But it was definitely a sister, and she had the split jersey, which was a lot of airtime there. All right, keeping this thing moving. I want to hit on some recent, some scouting of some recent commits and flips. This one hurts, man. Jay Timmons leaves Florida State, flips to Ohio State. I used to play cards with Lawrence Timmons, dude, at Florida State. Like, good dude, and I know Florida State's recruiting is falling apart. This one's like, you got to be kidding me, because this kid can really play.
Yeah, but I've been trying to scream from the top of the mountains, like Ohio State, they're going to close strong. They also just added
last
Legend
week. You
Bay.
Screamed it.
Yeah, Legend Bay, a dynamic athlete out of Texas. He just flipped from Tennessee to Ohio State. Jay Timmons, to me, Bud, I love the football player here. Like, he is one of the best players in the state of Pennsylvania, doing it in an extremely tough league. Ohio State is searching for cornerback help, right? That's what they are looking for. Jay Timmons, to me, can he play on the outside? I don't know. I kind of like him more as a nickel. I mean, he's a guy that does it in all three phases, under 5'11", but he has all the athletic markers that you want. And Bud, as I got into his senior tape last week, who he reminds me of is Trent McDuffie.
Oh,
Trent
okay.
McDuffie, yes. And I went through some old data, and man, like, their testing, their measurables are identical. And Trent has played on the outside in the NFL. So I think for Ohio State, this is a huge addition. And they are one of these programs right now that is in an advantageous position because there is certainty there. There is continuity. They are going to play for a playoff. So they're able to go around and go after kids that are committed elsewhere. And more importantly, they're going after kids that are playing excellent as seniors where the arrows are clearly pointing up. Obviously, Jay Timmons has the NFL bloodlines, and I think a kid like that, you can see it on tape that they grew up around the game. They process, diagnose it just a little bit faster than everyone else. The physicality's there. So huge addition for Ohio State. And then the other guy they got, mentioned him a few minutes ago, Emmanuel Ruffin, big, potential building block up front. As good as Ohio State has been, kind of one of the issues for them, I think, has been the point of attack recruiting on the defensive side of the ball. Now they have some guys playing out of their minds this season, but they haven't really been able to get all of those targets. And to me, Ruffin, get into his senior tape, and I'm like, how is this guy going to Colorado? I thought he had an elite workout. I mean, he is 6'4", he's 310 pounds. He's got a little tightness in the lower half, but in combine drills, I mean, he moved like a cat. I was kind of shocked by that. So Ohio State gets him, one of these big bodies. You drop Ruffin in the transfer portal and be like, hey, this guy's played 500 snaps. He's going to have a high price tag. So kudos to Ohio State, which, has a lot of homegrown players, meaning high school talent, playing for them in key moments. And I think Emmanuel's a guy that, maybe 2-3 years down the line, you're going to see on your TV screens.
He does a really nice job of not giving the offensive lineman his chest. Like he gets skinny, keeps an arm free in those highlights like that. That's pretty impressive stuff, man. Like that's. I mean, obviously the testing number are great, but that's good handwork from him. Like just watching that, they're not getting clean shots on him, and it's not all just crappy offensive line play in high school. That's really impressive. Two defensive guys there. I was talking to somebody who played Ohio State this year, and I was like, all right, so they're, because he watches the show. I'm like, I think Ohio State might just be a level up from everybody else. And he's like, dude, we just don't see opposing defenses run that variety of coverage and be good at it. Some teams try to do a bunch of stuff and they just, jack of all trades, master of none. And they're running a lot of different scheme and somehow running it cleanly. Granted, they have great players and they have really, really good coaches. So that's a good recipe.
Yeah, well, they got the cheat code back there, Caleb Downs.
Right, and they have Arvell Reese, who's kind of the cheat code at the second level. That's, whew. I mean, but having a guy with Timmons' versatility allows them to kind of keep. I'm glad you had the McDuffie comp too, because I was thinking Honey Badger, but I think it's a different player.
And I vetted this player comp, Cooper Patagna, at CBS Sports. He was at Washington when they recruited Trent McDuffie, and I said, hey, I'm getting McDuffie vibes with Jay Timmons. Take me back to that recruitment. And he's like, it was a guy where he was below the line, but as a senior out in the Trinity League in California, so it's kind of like the WPIAL in Pittsburgh. He was the best player on the field, right? And they just took the shot, and they said, hey, we're gonna overlook this. He's gonna be the exception for us, and he turned out to be a really, really good football player. And I think to what you said about, hey, the different coverages and getting exotic, you want a guy like Jay Timmons, where again he's been around the game, he is a processor. And Caleb Downs, it's the same thing. Brother played in the league, dad played in the league, uncle played in the league. You need those type of guys that can read and diagnose.
100%, man. That is a really impressive prospect. And Ohio State Chip was talking about this the other day. If they run this and they go undefeated in the college football playoff era and win the whole damn thing after what they did last year, that's probably the most impressive 2-year run of anybody in the history of college football. Just given the number of good teams you got to play. I'm sure there's other debates, but Oklahoma went 4 years without losing or whatever. But
and then I saw on X, the Everything app, someone was like, man, imagine Cam Coleman opposite of Jeremiah Smith.
I said that.
Oh, was it you?
Did they rip my take? Oh, gosh. I was like, Carnell Tate's going to the league. If you're Ohio State, if you get Cam Coleman, you kind of lock it up, right? They're not losing to that team. It's if Florida State still had Randy Moss on the Peter Warwick Lavernius Coles team. They're just, sim to next year. This is not going to be a thing. That'd be wild. That was our take on what Coleman would command in the portal, by the way, did pretty well. Not amongst Auburn fans, though. They're not they're not loving that. But it's not like Auburn's hurting for money. I'm sure if they really want to keep him, they can just pony up and also get some semblance of quarterback play. All right. We'll end on this. Actually, we're not going to end on this yet. We have to talk about J.J. Dunnigan going to Miami. Hurricanes up to the number 11 recruiting class. What do we like about him?
Yeah, Miami, same category. I know they're on the outside looking in right now with the college football playoff, but Mario is there, right? And they are as funded as anyone. They're as aligned as anyone with their collective. They are aggressive on the recruiting trail, and they too are picking their spots, picking their battles. JJ Dunnigan, a kid out of Kansas, all right, 6A defensive player of the year. He is a big frame defensive back. I think he is a turbocharged chess piece, Bud. We list him as a corner. I'm always going to try to play these big guys out on the boundary. I think Miami likes the idea of him more at safety, but he's bringing versatility to Coral Gables. And Corey Heatherman, the defensive coordinator there, he comes from Minnesota. Who knows if he's going to be there in 2026. I'm sure he's going to have some suitors maybe in the NFL, but he's a guy where he blurs the positional lines. And JJ Dunnigan was committed to Kansas. I love this kid because every time I've seen him in a best on best setting, he's been one of the best players on the field. He played in the Under Armour All-America game as a junior last year, had an interception in that. We got him at the overtime OT7 championships, had an interception there. So this is a kid that dominates Kansas competition, but when he has leveled up and been alongside a bunch of other blue chippers, he has made plays. The profile, the numbers they spit out, Azariah Thomas, who was at Florida State, 4th-round pick, same thing. A lot of people thought safety, ended up playing corner. I think it's a big get for the Hurricanes. They're not done here. They've had a ton of visitors there. I really like what Miami's doing on the defensive side of the ball. Like, they are getting guys where it's like rush, crush, close, play fast, physical. It seems like Mario and that staff are trying to target those individuals, and they're doing it from the high school talent acquisition standpoint.
If you had Cam Ward on this team, is Miami the co-favorite to win the national title?
Can I pick another player besides Cam?
Sure.
Or do you think he just like unlocks?
Yeah, I think he's way better than the version of Beck they got, but I could be wrong. Who's the other player?
Like a game-breaking receiver, maybe?
Sure. Yeah, I could dedefinitely see that.
To complement Malachi Toney?
Yeah.
A guy we talked about a few weeks ago, like KJ Duff. What if KJ Duff's in the mix?
Totally. No, that makes a lot of sense. I lean quarterback just because positional importance, but like Beck doesn't suck. He's just probably not what they had hoped he would, bounce back to, I guess. Like he's not unplayable, clearly. All right. Let's finish on this.
All right, yeah, there's one recruit I want to hit on here because
please.
No, the last one. This is the last recruit we'll talk about. Matt Sieg, safety out of Pittsburgh, right? So we're just staying up there in the Steel City. Bud, this guy has rewritten the record books in the WPIAL, and I hope I'm saying that right, or if it's WIPAL. John Gruden apparently called Matt last week and is trying to pitch the Penn State commit on playing for Pat Narduzzi and the Panthers. The only issue is Indiana and SIG is involved here. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, they just hosted Matt for an official visit over the weekend. And then how about this third school that's kind of bucking above their weight class? West Virginia with Rich Rod. They are a program that is doing some things here. They're going after some of these Penn State commits. I mean, it makes sense, kind of in that same regional location. I love Matt, though. High school quarterback, 4-year starter. He's going to be a defensive projection. We're going to get him at the Navy All-American Bowl. If you're looking for a player comp, I'd love to say like Coy Parrish. I think he's more Dan Jackson who was at Georgia, right? Ended up walk-on, turn NFL draft pick. But he's a hard-nosed football player. I think he fits all of those programs, right? Where they have these safeties that just generate turnovers. Just a fun top 100 recruit to follow where it's kind of up in the air with 3 weeks to go. And again, Indiana, can they get this blue chip recruit? We really haven't seen Cignetti be able to do that in the high school ranks. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, you want to talk about a recruiting class where you can see that they are continuing to improve that roster. I mean, Notre Dame, the depth of the recruiting class, I haven't seen anything like it from them back when Brian Kelly was there. And then Rich Rod with West Virginia, and then whoever takes over at Penn State. So I just think it's one where it's fun, and there's going to be a lot of twists and turns here, over the next 3 weeks. And who knows, maybe this stretches into February signing day.
I mean, I'm also picking up a lot of this. Like, it's a nice year for the state of Pennsylvania. Whoever gets in there, like gets that job, I'm saying, hey guys, let's get that money cannon loaded, right?
Bud, like the 2027 class, I think is like the golden age in Pennsylvania. And I said that when, James Franklin stepped down. I mean, coming into the season, it was like, okay, Penn State's going to make another playoff appearance. They could win this whole thing. And that's going to, parlay into a ton of success on the recruiting trail. This could be the year, that 2027 cycle, where Penn State really does contend for a number one class. They've been in the top 5, or they've been knocking on the door of the top 5. I mean, there's 2 5-star prospects. Come on, Spell, the running back, Maxwell Hiller, the offensive lineman, but there's, I think, 9 other guys we currently have as 4-star prospects. I mean, it is loaded. The other thing too, Bud, I took a trip out to Virginia Tech a few weeks ago with my wife. That job, to me, like, you can recruit Pennsylvania from Virginia Tech. Like, you have no choice of hotbeds. Like, I didn't really realize like the potential recruiting base for Virginia Tech there. I mean, you can get into the DMV, you can get into the Carolinas, you can get into Tennessee, you can get into Ohio, you can go to Louisville if you wanted to. But no, you are right. Pennsylvania, the football continues to improve.
I don't think Penn State wants to see James Franklin about Tech. Like, not that he would make the Hokies a better program than the Nittany Lions, but if they're actually committed to spending, and it's very clear they did not spend, like they lost their best players to the portal repeatedly, and they ended up being pretty good at the schools they went to. If they're actually spending, Franklin can recruit, and like that's going to be a pain in the ass for those schools in that region if he's pulling, even if it's 3 or 4 kids a year that Penn State genuinely wants, right? If it's, Ohio State doesn't want that. Ohio State recruits, that area pretty well as well. Oftentimes, like they don't want, Notre Dame doesn't want to see that there. Like, not that Franklin's going to take them to a national title, but the ACC is extremely gettable right now. And like, if they're spending money, that's going to be a major pain in the ass for other programs.
I mean, you want to say like the ACC is gettable?
Yes,
but
sorry, yeah.
I think Clemson is going to finish with just one top 100 signee in the 24/7 Sports rankings. One.
That's something we should discuss next episode, because there's definitely something there.
And then the other thing, James Franklin, I think what makes him an attractive candidate. Like, think about all the transfers you could get from Penn State, like guys where it just doesn't work out with the next staff, and like that was a really good roster. I mean, how many of those guys you could just on the 2 deep? Hey, yeah, come here, familiar face. Like, that's not being discussed enough.
I completely agree, man. It's been a fun hour. Like, my head's spinning. I need my pen actually out so I can write down some of these ideas for next week. But this is really fun. And guys, if you're enjoying this, make sure you're commenting. Make sure you are sharing it on your socials. I don't know if I want to talk recruiting every single week of the year, but like, if we could do like 20 or 30 of these a year, that's a nice cadence. And certainly, like, recruiting stuff does happen in the off season. So I've been enjoying doing this. Ivins, great having you on. I love chopping it up. And let's keep rolling, buddy.
Absolutely, but I'm still waiting for an invite to play your golf course. So post signing day, I'm looking for it.
Friday? No. All right,
Thanks,
man.
bud.
I'll see you, buddy.